So hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Amesie's Corner. How are you all doing out there? I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well right now. I can cross Honda Goldwing off my bucket list because there's my Goldwing. So anyways, the story is we went and looked at this bike at the guy's garage, and he said $1,200, and I said that's kind of high, not knowing the condition of the bike. He told us that the primary drive on the bike was skipping. He told us that it smokes really bad. And, you know, with those in mind, knowing that the primary drive means the whole motor has to come out of the bike and be broken as far apart as you can really take this motor. And I wasn't really, I've got a lot of projects going on. You guys know that. And I was really not in the mood, or even for $500, I didn't know if I wanted to take on the project. But I thought about it. And the bike starts up and ran great. You saw on that video, and that's half the battle with these. It's just getting one that the carburetors aren't all gummed up and just, ethanol in the fuel ruins the carburetors. And to try to get these to run right, again, can be a real nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. So the bike started up as good as a brand new bike. You guys saw that. So thinking that I would have to take that apart and some other issues with it, I wasn't even going to offer him the $500. I was just going to find someone that might have wanted to take it. So I don't remember what day, Monday or Tuesday that was, Monday or whatever. So Friday, I'm here in the bay working on a customer's car, and Doc, that's his name, walks right up to me right in here. I didn't even see, kind of startled me a little bit. And he's got his hands up. He said, "My wife's making me get rid of the bikes. You want them? $500 a piece. Get them out of my garage." And deer in the headlights. I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, do I really want to take the project on? And I said, sure, $500. I'll take the gamble. Worst case, I can, get my money back, $500-600 and flip it. It runs like a dream. So yeah, I went there yesterday and bought the bike. I gave him the $500 he wanted, and now it's mine. Now, before I left his house, I took it for a ride up the street. And when I went up to the street on the bike and I got on it, on the throttle and off the throttle, I could feel the bike, the rear of the bike kicking one way and the other. And I got on it a little bit, and I could feel like a skipping in the final drive, not the primary drive. So I pull back into his yard, put it on the kickstand, and I run back, I walk back and I grab the rear wheel, and I give it a wiggle. And it moves quite a bit. And what had happened was, there were 3 bolts here that hold the final drive housing to the differential. Nuts, rather. These nuts were almost falling off. And then there's one down below, grab my filming light, there's one down below where the nut is completely missing. Should be able to see that. So anybody want to guess the problem, why it was skipping? Yeah, there's a coupler right here with spline teeth, maybe a 1/2 inch of teeth. This was pulling out to the point where it was just skipping at the top of the teeth. Tighten those bolts, and I actually showed the guy. He actually tightened the nuts. I keep calling them bolts. He actually tightened the nuts, and now the bike is fine. Yeah, now the bike doesn't have that problem anymore. It doesn't skip. It doesn't do anything. It just goes down the road nice. I actually rode it dirty, a little dirty riding from his house to here to the shop. It's only about a mile or so, maybe a little less. And I got on it pretty hard as I could, dumped the clutch in every gear, and it didn't skip a beat. So I get it in the shop here and start looking around it, and I notice, if we look at, this is the stator and final drive output shaft housing, and if we look, we see, you see that black stuff there? That's Permatex Indian head sealant, a really old type of sealant, old-timey stuff. All the old-timers love to use it. I prefer gray rigid, but gray rigid's what like Honda automobiles uses to seal their manual transmissions up. But yeah, we see new gasket on the stator cover. Roll over to the other side, and we can see it here too. We see the new gasket, the Indian head, and all of that sealant and all that. So the bike has been taken apart. The motor is obviously, to get that housing apart, the motor has to come out of the bike. So what I think happened with this bike is somebody rebuilt it, went all the way through it, and whoever did it seemed to know what they were doing. There are a couple other modifications we'll get to that kind of lead me to believe whoever serviced this bike knew what they were doing with these bikes, and you know, it runs great, drives great, kind of a testament to that. So one thing I noticed, or another thing I noticed, the tires. Now, there are witness marks on a tire. I don't know if this shows up, maybe up here. They put these paint marks on tires, new tires, especially motorcycle tires. This one has a yellow one and a green one. Now, these will wear off. Kind of for warranty coverage, this kind of gives you an idea, an estimate of how many miles are on a tire. So the yellow one is still kind of here. That's the lower mile. I'm going to guess 100, maybe 200 miles it takes to wear that one off. And then this green one probably takes, you know, 500 miles in normal use. So I'm going to guess that this tire was more than likely put on this bike when that motor was taken out under 500 miles ago. So what happens when you take a bike, an old antique bike like this, apart, you put it all together, you tighten, torque, and do everything nice and tight, and then you have a 500 or so mile, maybe a little less apparently, break-in period where you ride it, you kind of little hypersensitive, feeling any kind of noises and issues. So if anything loosens up, like a primary or a final drive housing, you know to stop and tighten it and retorque it. So you pretty much, when you rebuild the bike, you ride it for a little bit, then you go back and just check every nut and bolt again. I think that step was skipped. I think it was driven a few hundred miles. It developed its first problem after a teardown, which isn't a big deal, just some loose hardware. And he kind of just shit-canned the bike, put it in his garage thinking it needed more work than he was ever going to get to. So yeah, there it is. I own a Honda Goldwing, and it is in amazing shape. I mean, you just see how the paint shines on it, on the side covers, and I haven't even cleaned this thing yet. It's still covered with dust. You see all the dust on it. It's still dirty. I haven't cleaned it. I haven't done nothing but tighten those 3 bolts and ran it. Now, the bike is ice cold. I mean, it's not warmed up at all. I can touch the exhaust manifolds, right? I ran it yesterday, ran great. And let's do a little cold start, shall we? Choke, a little ignition. And there it is. There it is. Now the gasoline in this thing is horrible. Yeah, it smells like shellac. It's just, the gas is probably 3 or 4 years old. And apparently he put no ethanol fuel in it. He was kind of savvy. He knows how they can mess it up. I think he put something, honestly, by how it smells, if anyone's ever smelled leaded race gasoline, he might have put race fuel in this for storage, which is actually not a bad idea. But now, it smoked really bad when I first ran it, but since then I haven't got it to smoke again. It was smoking out of the left exhaust. There is no crossover, so what's coming out of the left pipe is from the left side, what comes out of the right's from the right, and it was smoking out of the left side, which is actually normal for these bikes. Normal and common, because when you put the bike on the kickstand like this, it leans to the side. The oil kind of goes into the left cylinder head area, gets, you know, around the rings a little, through maybe through the valve seal a touch, and they'll smoke out the left side. And as you can see, that smoking is pretty much all done. Another thing he told me is he puts synthetic oil in, and he said he knew right away that was a mistake. The synthetic oil has a higher flow rate, which means on these older bikes it's more apt to get through the piston rings, it's more apt to get through things. So we're going to put some regular conventional oil in it in a little while. Not today, though. I'm not really working on it today. Today is more just a show and tell day. And then I'm going to get this thing to my home workshop where we're going to actually be doing the work on it. Not that there's much to do. So anyways, I'm going to break this thing down a little bit. I'm going to pull the covers off. I'm going to pull the side covers off. I'm going to pull the tank side covers off and dig into this thing a little bit, because I'm curious to see what this thing looks like underneath all these panels. Something tells me this thing's going to be just the cleanest Goldwing around right here. I think I scored on this one. Alright, let me pull this thing apart. Okay guys, so I got the covers off, which only takes a moment. Everything's held on with thumb screws and quarter turn fasteners. But if anybody wanted to know what a naked Goldwing looked like, all naked and stripped down, and there you have it. There's the coolant tank. Now, just look how clean this thing is under here. No animal damage. No mice have been in here, which is kind of a big problem when a bike's set up here in the Northeast. All the animals want to get out of the cold weather. I mean, electrical system all looks great. Everything's in good shape. Everything's really clean. I mean, look at the hardware. Look at some of the nuts and bolts on under here. There isn't even surface rust. I don't think this bike's ever been out in the rain, ever. For instance, this cover here, this glove box cover is coated with the leather. It's got a leather or pleather or whatever they use coating. It feels like a little more durable than the seats, but not a single crack in that. Usually these get out in the sun and the weather and you know, a year or two in the weather, and that cover looks just horrible. Couple little splits in the seat, nothing I'm worried about. I'll probably just recover this with a chunk of leather. I'll just get some rawhide or something and make my own cover, maybe trim my own seat for it. Here's that gas tank, big old gas tank under the seat, like we were saying. You know, everyone thinks that big gas tank up there is where the fuel goes. It goes right there. And then you fill it. And there's the fill right there. And I don't know if we're going to be able to see inside of there very well. There's about a little under a half a tank of really nasty gasoline. I mean, it smells like it's been in there a long time. And this thing runs this well on this old gasoline. I can imagine we get some fresh fuel in this thing, she's going to wake right up. One thing I got to deal with is you'll notice the headlight is taped over. The problem is this had, and it's probably a good time as any to show, the old school fairing and bags and panniers and trunk that would have been on this bike. And the reason it hasn't got a headlight in the hole is because there it is right there. It's in the fairing. So I got to track down a headlight. I've actually ordered a headlight, which I hope is right, from eBay for 40 bucks. We'll see if it's going to work or not. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find another one. This is the Vetter panniers. I believe that's what we call those, the saddlebags. These would have actually detached easily from the bike, and you could carry these inside to your hotel room if you're touring with the bike. It's basically luggage that bolts, clips, and unclips. And this, which I think is an iconic thing for me, back when these bikes came out, I totally remember this trunk being on them. I totally remember seeing these on the road with that setup. It just reminded me something out of Star Wars. Interesting story on these bikes. Honda actually commissioned this setup to be made and sold through Honda by the company that made these, but I guess something happened and the molds were destroyed, and that's why we have naked Goldwings. The Goldwings were never supposed to be stripped down bikes. They were always supposed to have fairing on them, but yeah, I did a little research and I was pretty interested to see that, this is the company, the Vetter company was the company that made the original molds, and they made one set, which was a lot sleeker, I was told, than this ended up being. And they were meant to all come with it, or all have it available as an option from the dealer. But that fell through, the molds got destroyed, and then aftermarket companies, it made a niche for aftermarket companies to come up with their own fairings for the bike. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we got. I think the next step maybe is to take it for a little ride around the building a few times. I haven't registered it. Like I said, I just picked this bike up yesterday, Saturday, and Massachusetts, there's no way on the weekends to get a vehicle registered. You just got to go to your insurance company, which is never open. You got to go to the registry, which is always packed and always a pleasure. So we'll get this thing on the road once I save up a little bit of money, and we'll enjoy the crap out of it. But for now, I'm going to get this thing back together, and let's go around the building a few times. All right, guys, I got it all put back together. It took literally 2 minutes to snap all those panels back on. I wanted to touch a few of the upgrades that I've noticed have been done to this bike. Probably the first upgrade I noticed, and probably the most important one, is right here. This actual automotive style oil filter with this special adapter that lets it run that. Looks like this front cover's been apart. I see Indian head sealant on this front cover as well. So yeah, that's a nice upgrade there. And the exhaust, it has Jardine pipes on it, and really cool, you guys can see everything, stainless headers. Looks like they've been low-sided a few times. I wonder if the other side's been low-sided. No, I think the pegs would get in the way, and the kickstand. Well, yeah, anyways, so one thing I want to point out is I don't have three things actually. The state I'm in right now, New Hampshire, does not require helmets. I'm driving around the building. I'm not going to get over 15 or 20 miles an hour, so I'm not going to wear a helmet. Also, I forgot to bring the helmet, so I don't want to hear in the comments, oh, you need to wear a helmet, because the government here in New Hampshire says that's optional. So anyways, like I said, we're not registered. I don't have a headlight in the front, so we can't go down the street. So I'm going to rip around the building a few times and maybe take a couple of cool different angle shots as we go around. So got you guys up on the head cam for this. Awesome. The more I ride this bike, the better it gets. The more of that gas I burn through, the more of it wakes up, the better this bike gets. Awesome, guys. Well, all right, guys, what a blast. What a nice bike. What a score on my part, huh? I kind of feel bad. I don't feel like I cheated Doc. I feel like he kind of cheated himself on this one. But I probably wouldn't have bought it if he didn't come here and say he had to get rid of him like that. But you know, he's leaving out of his house. What's a $1,000 motorcycle when you're leaving a $250,000 house? So he just needed to get rid of it, and it went to a good home. And you know, you guys know me, like with the Sonnet, I would give it back to Charlie for a week. I'll give this to him and let him use it. But yeah, what a score. I've always wanted a Goldwing, and I honestly don't think I could have found a better one up here in New England for a better price. So yeah, well, anyways, guys, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit and go about my day. I love the comments down below. I may not have time to answer them all, but I read every single comment. I'm coming up on 500 episodes, and pretty much all my episodes prior get comments. So it might seem like I don't leave a lot of comments. It's just to keep up with 500 videos worth of comments. I'd have no time to make the videos, so I read them all. If you guys want to check out my Facebook group, I know a lot of you have, and you'll get stuff that, you know, behind the scenes. I actually did a quick walk around of this bike, trying to decide what I wanted to say of it, live on the Facebook. So yeah, Amesie's Automotive Corner Facebook group. It's a good bunch of guys. If you have any questions, it's a lot easier for me to answer and chime in on the Facebook group than it is on YouTube. YouTube is just kind of a pain in the butt lately. But anyways, on that note, and until next time, guys, keep it out of the cabbage.